Hello, everyone. Hi, Eric.
Afternoon, Heather.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks for a Friday.
Excellent. Hello, Katrina. Hello, Steve.
Happy Friday.
Hello, Lucy. You're the only broker on here twice. Excellent. Hello, Sarah. Everybody's logging in now. This is great. We'll get started in just a couple of minutes. And yay, it's Friday. How's the weather in Perth today?
We've got some sun. Well, it's not much point looking out there, Eric, because I know you've got no window, but I've got a window and yeah, it's blue sky.
Nice. It's a
It's
bit,
good.
it's blue skies here, but it's chilly.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here as well.
Mm. Yeah, your version of chilly and mine are usually different.
Yeah, I know.
What is it, 20?
Yeah,
No, I
it's
think
about,
it's
about 20.
yeah, about that. Yeah. Nice.
Excellent. All right, we'll give everybody else just another minute to get on here. We've got a couple of note takers, and we have, it looks like one broker with us, Lucy. Hello, Rob. Thanks for joining us. Give everybody just another minute to get in before we get started.
The balmy 23 degrees here in Brisbane at the moment.
Oh, rub it in, Katrina, rub it in.
We had
Okay, now,
27 yesterday.
okay, so here in Newcastle, it says that is 19 and feels like 13. We got some wind. We got some wind happening here. So yes, what's all right. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. It looks like we've got a couple of brokers in here. We've got Lucy and Rob and a couple of AI note takers. So before I get started, kind of, I guess, taking you through things, does anybody have any questions that they came prepared to ask me today? Any brokers have any questions on anything?
I only just have one comment, Heather, and I'm looking at a LinkedIn post that
Yes.
Dalrymple put up with Sales Tracker. What were the stats there? 8,000 or 5,000 or something? Did you see that post?
Yeah, so we have 80% of the users who use 2.0 have now been migrated into 2.0. With, as you guys would know with your brokers, some of them using it a lot, some of them have checked it out, and some have got logins but haven't logged in yet. But we've actually got over 5,000 deals that have gone through the system now in various stages, be it submitted, they've been put in the system but haven't been submitted. We've got lots and lots of settlements already in the system. So it is well and truly working. And I guess that's a really good place to start today, is to talk to you about where the feedback is that we're getting from brokers. I think this is encouraging for those of you who are on here, people like Lucy and Rob. I don't know how engaged with 2.0 you guys have been so far, but if you're still kind of dabbling, still kind of thinking about it, what I can confidently tell you is that, hello, Jeremy. Hello, Helen. Thanks for joining us. What I can confidently tell you is that with over 5,000 deals now being put across all of our partner platforms, the amount of feedback we're getting about issues is minuscule compared to the amount of deals are going in. The majority of the feedback that we're getting these days are, gee, I wish it would do this, or can you make this box a little bigger? Nothing that actually prevents people from doing their deals, writing loans, doing any of that. So if people are still not quite ready to jump in, I do encourage you to get in there and have a go. So here's what to remind you about that. When you start using 2.0, if you haven't already, what you want to be doing is you want to be do a couple of practice deals, be a customer, see what the client portal feels like, get comfortable to how it navigates. And if you want to do deals in 2.0 right now that are live clients, you absolutely can. But what we recommend is you only do new to you clients in 2.0 for right now. Because when we do the data transfer, we will move your information from 1 to 2. And if you had a client in version 1 and you move them into version 2, you'll end up with a duplicate client. So new to you clients, by all means, do them in version 2. Happy for you to do that. Lots of people are having really great experiences doing that right now as we speak. When we do the data transfer, just as a reminder, we will move across your deals, your contacts, all the notes on the file, all the tasks on the file, and all the documents on the file. So one of the questions I've been asked a lot is, if I have tasks that are set for 2 years from now for like a fixed rate expiry, is that task going to come across? And the answer is yes, it will. Your tasks will come across. Your notes in the files will come across. And all the documents that are in the file, so your credit guide and privacy and all of your ID and pay slips and all those documents will come across when that happens as well. So you don't need to worry about any of that. We'll provide you plenty of information and details about, deals in progress, things that have been submitted to AOL, things that haven't been submitted to AOL. All of that we will provide you in plenty of time for that. And we will be notifying you, or SFG will be notifying you in the future about when that data transfer is going to happen. I know we've had a few more people join since we started. Did anybody come today with any specific questions they wanted to ask me before we kind of start to get into some things that I wanted to share and show you guys today? John, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask about adding referrals into our system. I asked it the other day to Marco actually. So yeah, there's obviously two parts to it. There's one that comes up on our credit guide where it discloses the referral and dollar amounts to the client. But there's also another part of the system where it allows the referral in the commissions to have a drop down and then the referrer to have access to a portal. I have had one set up where the bottom right-hand side IT people went and set it up for me, and they said it wasn't working at the time, but they set that one up for me internally. I needed to set up another one, and I think I tried to do it, but I don't think I got anywhere.
Right. So there is a little bit of work to still be done on the partner portal. If you do have partners that you needed to get added right now, the SFGconnect team can assist you with that, or the sales checkers support can. Right now, the users can't add the partners. It is something that we will have fixed in the future. But if you do have anything, Eric, your team can assist with adding partners to the partner portal, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. John, so you've got Andrew added. Was that the only part that you wanted to?
Hilariously, it's actually Andrew that I need to add because Andrew has sent me a deal or so I need to add him as a referrer.
Yeah.
So is Andrew a broker as well?
No, well,
Okay.
he's the aggregator.
Okay. So the one thing to be mindful
Okay, I
of.
thought you were talking about Andrew Scurra.
No, 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 no. Andrew Larkin
Yeah,
from
yeah, yeah,
Banks.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Everyone knows Andrew. Yeah.
So just one thing to be mindful of for everybody, and this is something we are going to try to work through how we do this. The partner portal works really differently in 2.0 and then to version 1. As you guys would all know, there's that whole thing with roles and permissions, and you guys are all team admin, team member, etc. You have a role. A referral partner who's in the partner portal, partner is also a role. So if somebody who's referring to you is also a broker who has a role in another organization like team member or team admin, you can't currently add them as a partner. If that's the case and you need to add them, reach out to Eric and the SFGconnect team. They'll talk to us and we'll work out a way to get that person added into the partner portal.
So even if that partner is a company, so Andrew as an individual might be in the system, but his company, which is a referral company, technically is not.
Is the email address and the phone number in the system?
Yeah, it will be.
Yeah. So that would be a limitation of the way it's set up. Send the details through to the SFGconnect team. They'll liaise with us and we'll figure out how to make that work for you.
The Connect team being the IT people in the bottom right-hand corner of my tracker,
No,
or no?
Eric and
The
his team,
SFG stuff.
Okay.
SFG staff.
All
Send it
right.
to them and they'll navigate all that with us. They'll work with my team to figure out how we make that happen.
But it looks like
Thank
that's
you.
already set up for you, John.
Is it?
Yeah, I've got. I can see Wallen accounting in there.
Yeah,
Is that-
that's
yeah.
sure. That was set up by the IT people in the
Oh, okay, yeah,
chat
sure.
bottom right.
Yeah.
When they set it up, they said they've done it for me, but they were still working on it for other examples.
Yeah. That might
Okay.
be one to take offline with the SFG Connect team, John, and maybe reach out to Eric and the team. It's Eric, I'm sure we'll put the email address in the chat for you to reach out to the team so that you can assist and do that.
Yeah, I'll reach out to you offline, John.
Yeah.
Perfect,
Oh,
mate,
you
thank
can
you.
give me a call, John.
All right, well, I'll call. Yeah, perfect.
Excellent. Does anybody have, John, did you have other questions?
No, I was going to say, I suppose I really want to learn how to clean up my fact find and my stacks. I reckon I inherited some of Andrew's and I think they're a bit all over the joint and they've got everything there rather than separating them into employment, pay as you go, and so on, then purpose, refinance, and so on. I just think that part of my system is really ugly. I think it should be cleaner, and I'd like to learn how to make it cleaner.
Absolutely. And again, I would reach out to the SFG Connect team who can log in with you and help you work through the
Okay.
specifics of your organization and what you need to do. That would probably be, they're probably the best place for specifics about your business because they can
Yep.
help you figure that out.
I'll just book a whole day date with Eric.
I'm
Oh,
sure he would just
jeez.
hate that, John.
Or Marco or Helen.
Excellent. Did anybody else come with any questions for me today? Specific questions about anything? No? All right.
I've got one.
James?
Heather, sorry.
Excellent. Hi, James.
Oh, here we go.
Uh,
In the tasks, can you rank tasks in the checklists?
What do you mean by rank? Like put them in an order?
So if I've got 10 tasks in one checklist, can I change the order of those, or do you have to specifically name them A, B, C, D?
There will be some changes to that you can actually rank them in order and do all that. That's coming in the future because what they're doing now is putting them in alphabetical order, and you actually want them to be you might want them in a particular order. So that is something we're working on to fix. Because yeah, I know
Right.
exactly what you're talking about. I've done checklists of a bunch of tasks, and the thing I want to do first starts with the letter S, like send the credit guide and privacy, and it goes to the bottom before something else. So I know exactly what you're talking about. That is something we're looking at
Yeah, it
fixing.
just drives my OCD mad. And
Me too. Me
and
too.
if I have to add in a task, an extra one, then I've got to change the letters for all the other ones. That's the only issue.
Yeah, no, I completely get it. And it is something that we are actively working on fixing. The next update, just to let everybody know, is on Monday, and there's a bunch of stuff coming on Monday. I don't know if that's in the Monday fix or not, James. I'll know on Monday because they're finalizing and importing everything tonight. So then I'll know on Monday. When that happens, just so everybody knows, we will communicate to the SFG team that the update and all of the things that were updated. But the release notes also, if people are wanting to know what we change and when we change things, just to show you guys where you can actually find that. If you come here to the library, so you know we're doing a release on Monday. So chances are the release notes will be updated into the system. So I'm losing my voice. I've done 32 hours of training this week. You guys are my last hour, so I'm going to squeak it through for the next 50 minutes. If you click on the library here, you actually see the release notes. So if you're somebody who's wanting to check and see what we do and what we fixed and when we fixed it, it lives right here. This was the release we did on the 8th. You can go back and look at, as you can see, lots of stuff. It tells you all of this. Sometimes it'll mean something to you, sometimes it won't. But we are doing a release on Monday. So I would imagine by sometime. So we'll do the release on Monday, which means it'll be Monday night. Sometime on Tuesday, this will be updated in the system for you. And you can see the new release notes. We also post them on social media. The SFG team gets them as well. So the best thing I would recommend to do, Andrew, is check in here on Tuesday. Because when the release is on Monday, I need to be really clear. It's Monday night because it's done from overseas. So it's Monday, but it's their Monday morning, not our Monday morning.
Perfect. Thank you.
Excellent. Does anybody have any other questions before I've got some things to cover if people don't have questions? Anything else? Please ask me questions. It's way more interesting when you guys ask me stuff. No? All right. So I've got a few things I thought I would talk about today. Things that we cover off in kind of quick detail when we're doing a foundations training. And I just wanted to maybe expand upon some of that stuff today and maybe remind you of some things that maybe you saw in foundations training, which could have been a couple months ago that you maybe didn't think about doing. And just a reminder around your lender accreditations, because I've had a few people contacting the help desk and saying, I attended one of Heather's training sessions and she showed me how to add my BDM and I can't remember how to do it. So when you're in your lender accreditations and you come to a lender, let's see, who have I not done? Maybe I haven't done a Prime Capital. Hit edit. No, I've done that one. I haven't done ORD. When you hit edit, you have this box here where you can add your BDM. So when you do this, you add all of your BDM information. I encourage you to add your assessment hotlines and all of that kind of information as well. Because as a reminder, where that appears is when you're working on a deal, that appears in the deal card. And you can connect with them if you're like logged in on your phone or something like that. You can ring them, you can SMS them, you can send them an email. And when you're thinking about sending emails to these people, either to the BDM or even your broker support line or hotline for the lender, when you're thinking about sending an email, one of the things I encourage you to think about, and we've done templating workshops as well, is to think about when you're in here, you've got all of these templating emails, right? Think about template emails that you might send to BDM, particularly around things like I need an escalation. They said that, they're not going to pick up the file for another 3 days. My cooling off ends. Can you escalate the file? You can have a lovely little template there. You could also have a template to query something with evaluation or any of the other things that you need to do. Also think about templates because the other people who appear here are any other relationships. So advisors, employers, you might want a template to do an employment check. You might want a template to email the solicitor the unconditional approval letter. You might want to do any kind of things like that. So think about when you're adding all these people in your lender contacts, you're doing it for a really good benefit for yourself to make yourself more efficient. Even if you don't want to send them a template, you can come in here. I don't want to send it to the client. I want to send it to, why is that grayed out? Oh, it's because I don't have a real email address in there. You'd send it to the partner, you could pick a template and you can send everything that you want to send it to. It's a really practical way to do the things you need to do. So that's one of the things I wanted to kind of, I guess, get you thinking about. Let me check in. Eric's put the support sales tracker release notes in the chat. Thank you, Eric. You are always so good about that. The other thing I wanted to remind you about and talk a little bit about today are a couple of the features of the premium offering, which I know we kind of talk on during training, and I'm sure you guys are starting to use them. But I want to talk about specifically in the library, the home loan policy search tool. This will bring up your whole lender panel. So maybe I want to start looking for like a self-employed expat. This is going to search through everything and look for policy information. It will talk to me about who will accept some of this information. And sometimes you need to right now tweak the spelling and do things a little differently to change things around to make it to come up. One of the other features, I'll just let you guys know that will be coming, it won't be till 2026, is there will be some kind of chat bot functionality in here when you can kind of type in what you're looking for in a different fashion that will maybe give you more information. So this, if I just type in expat, gives me a bunch of different pieces of information on that based on I don't have all of the lenders in my lender accreditation list, obviously, up in here. So the policy library is really good. Like if I look at this policy here for A and Z, not only can I read through it, don't forget you can actually download from here the mortgage credit requirements document that relates to, correct? Really helpful and handy. Now, I have had people asking me, well, what does that mean about the lender document library? You still have the lender document library. So the home loan policy search is part of the premium offering. There will be a cost for that in the future. Right now, SFG is picking up the cost of that for you. When the cost comes out and what that's going to be, they will communicate all that to you. The lender document library, which is similar to what you have in version 1, it's got just a little different look and feel. That is still part of the standard offering. So if you don't have the premium offering, if you wanted to say search for A and Z, you now have a handy little thing here that actually lets you search for the type of document you're looking for, so you don't have to scroll through the whole list. I might come here to my policy and procedures manual and look for whatever the document is that I'm looking for and open up that document, like the mortgage credit requirements. That's that document that I just opened up there, right? So you can still get to that stuff, but it doesn't give you the search function to kind of see which lender and which policy. The other thing I wanted to talk about today, and guys, if you have questions, either interrupt me or type them in the chat, anything. This is your chance to ask me whatever you like. The other thing I want you to think about is with the quick tools. Again, part of the premium offering, but I really want you guys to be exploring the maximum borrowing and the product comparison. I'm going to open up a maximum borrowing that I did previously. When you open up one of these, one thing to note is this will recalculate the numbers every time you reopen this. So if you did this one 3 months ago for a client, and the client now comes back to you, it's going to recalculate based on whatever the rates and the policies are now, not what they were 3 months ago. So you don't have to redo anything, you just open it up. But again, we are getting a lot of people who are doing the quick tools here and doing the maximum borrowing in particular because it's a great tool. And they're coming here sorry, not in this one, product comparison. Sorry, let me come back to the product comparison. No, I was in the right spot. Sometimes my brain is mush. Let me come back in here. They're coming in here. And let's say we come to Macquarie and we want to download the calculator, right? People are wanting to this great feature to download the calculator. And it's really cool. You can download the Macquarie calculator pre-filled. But I want you to think about if you're doing this from a quick tool, what we're finding is people are coming to the help desk or to our team or to your team there at SFG and saying, it's not complete, it doesn't have all the information. So there's two things to think about. When you're doing this from a quick tool, you haven't filled in nearly enough information. If we come back and look at this deal, let me just smush that over to the side, and we look at my security, I haven't even put an address in for my security property. I haven't expanded out all of my living expenses. I don't have all the intricate details in a quick tool to have 100% completed calculator. So that's the first thing. Whilst you can do a calculator from a quick tool, the place you are better off to do a calculator from is actually when you are in the deal and you've picked your product, because that's the calculator you need for the lender. That's the calculator you need for compliance. And that's the one that will be complete. The other challenge that people are having with the calculators, and I know we talk about this in foundations training, but I just want to remind you as well. And I'll just come up here and type in this so I can get this article. with the pre-populated lenders servicing calculators. John, I'll answer your question in just a minute. When you're looking at the lender's pre-populated servicing calculators, you do need to recalculate the values and do a couple of things. So if you come here to the side, because we're using Macquarie, it tells you what you need to do from both a PC and a Mac to recalculate the values. That's the first thing. And then if there are any other quirks on the calculator that you need to do, it tells you what you need to do to complete anything else that needs to happen. So this article as well, and I'm guaranteeing you Eric's going to probably just put this article in the chat because he is that amazing and that's what he does, is that if you're going to be using the calculators in the deal, I would recommend, again, you bookmark this tab so you don't have to go get it every single time. And guarantee you, once you start doing it a few times and there's the regular lenders you use a lot, you won't need to use the article anymore. So John has asked me in the chat, when we're looking at these quick tools, John has asked me about the living expenses and can't you just use him? Now, a couple of things, and then I'm going to let compliance weigh in on this as well, because we've got the lovely Katrina here from compliance, and I think I saw the delightful Tony Brown as well. If I put nothing in this box, it will calculate using the lender's HEM. But here's my concern with doing that, right? Here's my borrowing capacity with that. If I haven't asked the client the question and I just use him, that's great. But if I had asked the client and they said to me, oh, I know my monthly living expenses are at least $4,000 a month, that's going to reduce my number. I would always be at least asking them the question. If they give you a number that's below him, it's going to use him. But if they give you a number above him, it's much more useful to use the number they give you, because this is one of the things that I actually had a broker complain to me about, is that they did this. They just left the box blank. They did it. But then when they got in the deal and they got the client's living expenses, the borrowing capacity was like $150,000 less. And chances are, if they had asked the client this number, perhaps the client would have given them a more accurate number and it wouldn't have impacted their borrowing. I'd also love for SFG compliance to weigh in whether you should just use him on that or not while you guys are here.
Heather, no, I totally agree with you. Asking the client and getting an idea from the client for the exact reason that you said. If you go back to them, let's say even if you put 2,000 in there because that was the HEM figure, that's going to affect the borrowing capacity. And if somebody's looking like to get an idea of what their borrowings are going to be, and they go out and sign a contract and then can't get the loan, that's what you have to sort of consider. So I would be at least asking the clients for an idea. And even if they're not 100% sure, you could just go high level just to make sure. And then when it actually comes to doing the deal, you have that better list then. But yeah, definitely if they're looking to see how much they can borrow, so they're looking to purchase a property, it's a big thing to make sure.
And I guess the other thing on that, just to expand upon that, I completely agree with you, is that let's say I asked my client what they thought their living expenses was, and my client said to me, oh, I think it's 2,000 is my living expenses. Great. The client has said 2,000. That's below him. I come back here now with this borrowing capacity. When I go in to do a deal and I actually get the actual amounts of information from their documents, from their bank statements, and maybe my figure now is $4,000 and their borrowing capacity goes down, this is never going to come back on me as the broker, because I asked the client, they told me $2,000. But when I did my validations later on, it was 4,000. It just feels like it's also a way to mitigate a complaint later on. Would you agree, Katrina?
Yeah, I agree totally. And probably just saying like this is general info based on the general information that you've given me. We do have to review it and get your exact living expenses, exact details, and verify that information. But yeah, it's a big call out. So just making sure that it's an indicative amount based on the general information they've provided.
Absolutely. Eric, did you want to add something there? I wasn't sure.
No, I was just on the back of what yeah, Katrina said. When it comes to living expenses, verify, verify, verify.
Yes. I don't know, this is off topic, but and I don't know if all the brokers know this, but the lenders, especially the major banks, provide all kinds of reporting and information to the aggregators. I know this because I used to work at one. And they provide information like brokers who routinely submitting deals with living expenses below him. But the other one they provide is brokers who routinely provide all of their living expenses exactly at him, right?
Yeah.
So it's really important that what you're putting in this box or the is what the client says, but also in the deal is validated, verified, like Eric said.
And that's what we're getting from all the lenders. So all the lenders give us that, and they're always wanting us to do risk audits on, like, have our own reporting on that. So we can do, when we're doing our audits, we can do the regular look at those particular types of deals and make sure that they are actually reviewing their actual living expenses. So the lenders, like, they do a lot of scraping and everything. So whilst they say, yeah, it's all fine and dandy now, a lot of the back stuff and a lot of the stuff they do after is what they send to the aggregators and get the aggregators to look into.
Go
Can
ahead,
see
John.
John came off. Yeah.
So I think there's two parts to this. So typically, if I'm in Quick Tools or I'm using software to determine capacity at a very short period of time, I'm playing a game of guess who. So I'm asking them, hey, have you got credit cards? Have you got car loans? What I'm basically doing is I'm looking for items that are outside of him because we're wanting an answer really quickly. We're not necessarily wanting the most accurate answer for a loan application, but we're trying to take a snapshot. So
Yeah.
at that point in time, hey, you got kids, are they at school? Have you got private school fees? We're looking for outside of him, as well as credit cards and so on. All these things that affect capacity. When we go back and we then explain to the client, hey, First Max, based on the information you've given me, obviously this is not gospel and this is not your answer, but it's giving me an indication that through Macquarie or sorry, First Mac there, you've got a lending capacity of $902,000. But when we go through and you do your application, which is what we're going to do prior to you buying anything, then we're going to go through and it's actually going to be accurate based on your needs. So I think there's just two different
Yeah.
applications there.
Agreed.
So when we look at what we're giving to the lender, that needs to be accurate. So whilst everyone might have a mobile phone bill and Netflix and so on, most people are very different. And also HEMs are different with different lenders. So if you're on HEM target for Westpac, you're not necessarily on HEM target for Macquarie or ANZ. There's a lot of variation, but I think it's got to do with whether we're using quick tools, we've got the client on the phone and we're having a
Yep.
discussion, or if we're doing an application, two different scenarios.
I agree totally, John. And I think the biggest thing that you pointed out then is that you're telling the client this is an indication only based on the general information provided, and it may change once we actually get into it. Because, and it's also only valid on the day that you do it or at the time that you do it. If something changes,
Yep.
it could be completely different tomorrow. So it's
And I'm
really,
shopping for out of HEM expenses, by the way, as I'm doing it.
sorry, say that again.
And when I'm talking to them, I'm actually shopping for out of HEM
Yeah.
expenses. I'm
Yeah.
shopping for private school fees. I'm shopping for car loans, credit cards. That's part of my conversation with the client. And when they don't disclose something to me, and then it comes back, I can then point out, okay, I can see in this scenario you've got an afterpay. There's a credit card here you didn't disclose, and so on and so on.
That's why it's always good to put it in writing too, that it's an indication based on today's general information, because then you've got something to back yourself. If you're just talking over the phone, it can be he said, she said. But if you're clearly calling it out, that it's an indication only based on the general information we've collected, it may change. I think that's really good cover for brokers too.
And I know it sounds, well, everybody would laugh because of what we do for a living, but I clearly use the words, this is not an offer of credit assistance. You know what I mean? I'm not,
Yep.
they're the words I use. It's silly, but it's accurate.
And
I
just
think,
the other thing, if you are
Mm.
providing these documents to the client, you will see on the bottom if it's got that disclosure. We've tried to be as accurate as possible providing the above information. However, no material contained within this should be construed or relied upon as providing terms and conditions in relation to the funding requirements. No responsibility is taken for errors or omissions. You should blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
So you've even got a disclosure on the document when you send it to the client.
Yeah.
I don't need to send that as part of an application form. I wouldn't do that as part of casual conversations like a Quick Tools, how Quick Tools is or how I use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if
Excellent.
somebody is doing that, it's just drawing their attention to that. Yeah.
When it's
It's
on
good
paper,
that-
you're giving somebody a fact.
Not if there's a disclaimer down the bottom.
All right. What other questions do people have before we move on to the next thing I wanted to talk to you about? Anybody else have any questions? Any kind of questions about anything at all? All right. So the other thing I just wanted to remind you about with the quick tools, because people seem to have forgotten this piece as well, is that when you create this max borrowing for a client, I don't want you to forget that even if the client doesn't ring you back for 3 months and they decide to go ahead, I could come down to one of these ones that I did back in early July. So that wasn't that long ago. Actually, let's go back even further, shall we? Let's go open one of the ones. Ooh, Steve did this one. Maximum borrowing. I could, oh, there's nothing in this one. That's why. Let's come to one that I know is done. Let's just come to one I did last month or earlier this month. It's almost not, well, it's almost last month because it's like September in 2 days. I could come to this one for Riley from ages ago, and I could come in here right now. And as soon as this recalculates my numbers, I can create a deal straight away from this. And this is one of those really efficient pieces of this system is you can have that quick conversation and the client says to maybe let's just make this a little more interesting. Let's say when you did this original circumstance for this client, they had a $35,000 credit card. And of course, they're not going to be able to borrow what they want. And the client says, okay, thank you very much. Let me figure out about paying that credit card out and I'll come back to you. The client comes back to you in a couple months' time and said, I've paid out my credit card. Great. You can come back into this scenario right here. We could come to our assets and liabilities. We can just delete that credit card now that that credit card is gone, let it recalculate, and then I could create a new deal. I don't need to do a new max borrowing scenario for my client. I just need to come in and tweak what I need to do. So if somebody's paid out a credit card or paid out a personal loan or whatever they've done, just come in and tweak this, go, yep, now you're in a position that I can help you and I can create a new deal. What that means is that you don't need to kind of, as you do in version 1, maybe clutter up your workflow or have a workflow that's just kind of those clients that you've had a conversation with that aren't really going anywhere, that you don't know if they're ever going to come back, that you don't know if you're going to be able to help them. You can keep those things kind of tucked away and living in your quick tools, which I think is a really handy little piece of a handy little trick. Just checking, do I have any questions in the chat? The other thing I just wanted to highlight today, because we have a number of people, and I'm not sure if it's the people who are on here today or not. We have a number of people now who've been using the system for a few months and writing a few deals, and they're starting to think about kind of their process. And I'm a big person about map out what your process is. What does your ideal workflow and your ideal process look like? And for a lot of people, when they're doing that, they want to create their own workflow. Now, one of the errors that we're seeing with workflow creation, and I've done this in one of the Q&As before, but I'm going to do it again today, is when you come down here to your settings, and again, you need to have a role that has the word admin after your role. Come to process and workflows, and you can kind of come in here to create a new workflow that you can set up with however you know, my perfect workflow. You pick the deal types that you want this to be. You can do multiple deal types in a deal if that works for you. My OCD wants me to have my car loans in one and my home loans in one and my other things in another. That's how my brain works. But then this is where people are forgetting two things. With my workflow, as the team admin in my business, I need to add all of my team members that I want to have access to this workflow. Let's add Helen. You need to add your team members to the workflow. So what we're finding, and we're hearing from the help desk, is that people are creating a workflow, but they're not adding anybody to it, and then nobody can see it. So that's the first, I guess, error that we're seeing when you're creating workflows. But then the other one is when you're creating your stages. So this could be lead created. And what you need to think about is the stage read-only or editable? Now, read-only means that when you're sending the client portal to the client, they can't do anything. It's all grayed out. Editable means they can edit the client portal. So you might have a stage that is lead created. You might decide that your next stage could be, I'm going to make this really boring interview. And again, you want your client to be able to upload docs. You want your client to be able to do things on that. And then you get to say, maybe you have one which is signatures, where you're sending everything to the client to sign so you can submit. At that stage, you probably want to make it read only, because you don't want your client to be able to go in and change information which will come through to your into the deal, like maybe they change their income or they change something with a liability. Once you're ready to submit that deal, you need to lock it down so they can't change anything. They can still send you notes on the client portal. You can still send them notes on the client portal, but they can't amend any of the data in the fact find. So the two errors we're seeing when people are starting to generate workflows is they're not adding their team members, and they're not setting these up at the right in the right stages. And it is really important, once you get ready to submit that, whether it's your signature stage or your application stage or whatever that first stage you are, when the decision has been made and you're going to be sending it off to the lender, it is really important that you make that read only, so that you don't ever actually get stuck later on with maybe some data has changed in your fact find. So like, if you had not lock down your client portal, and let's say I was in this deal right here, and the client changed something in the client portal, maybe they inflated their income or removed a liability or went back and added another liability in or did any number of things, it would appear in here if they did it on the client portal, if you have not made that stage of the workflow read only. And this is a really important thing when you're thinking about compliance, is to make sure that you're this is about protecting yourself from anybody tweaking or changing any of your information. Do I have any questions on that and creating workflows at all? And when we are talking about thinking about your process and your workflows, we've done a number of workshops now on templating and automations. And when you're thinking about your process, the first thing I really want you to think about, if you're wanting to dive into the templating world, the very first place you should start with your templates is, I would start with tasks, and I would actually start with checklists. So please attend one of the templating workshops. I think next week is the templating workshop again, because you can create task templates or a list of tasks. So we have this kind of compliance checklist. I think we did this last week or the week before. This compliance checklist, when a deal is settled, do all these things, and it's got these task templates. I'm now going to show you what that looks like when you add that checklist to a deal and how you did it. So let's say we're on this deal here, and the deal has settled, for example, and I want to add my checklist to the deal so I can double check all my compliance stuff is done before I settle the deal and I move on. I could come here to my compliance checklist. I could say this is due today. I'm going to assign this. Actually, can I assign it to myself? I'm not on this deal. Nope. I'm going to assign this to Eric. I'm giving you a task, Eric, because you're the deal owner. Add that. So now I have this deal checklist. So the things that are on this, making sure I have all of these documents uploaded on the file. I've got the bank slips and the pay slips or the tax returns, the certified ID, the signed application form, etc., and whatever other documents you might have. I might sure that all relevance compliance notes are on there, that I've redacted the TFNs, that I've revoked the client portal, that I'm settling the loan, that whatever my tasks are. Think about what you do at every stage of a deal. Map out your process. What am I doing at this stage? You know, we do have one in here as another example of a checklist. You know, we've got a when a deal is created checklist. Let's make that again due today. Let's assign it to myself. This is going to add my checklist to my deal, and this is going to tell me, you know, these are my compliance docs that I need to do. These are the things oh, that's the other one. Then the things to complete for every deal. That's this one. Complete the Equifax, order the valuation, schedule the first appointment. So as you can see before, we were talking about these come in alphabetical order. When this was actually set up, this was first, this was second. Like they were in a very different order. Right now they're alphabetical. That will getting changed. So kind of just a pro tip, if you're wanting to get efficient with your use of the system, start with a piece of paper, start with your computer, start with your electronic notebook, whatever it is that you use and you do, and map out your process and map out what you think you do at every single stage, and start with tasks and checklists. That's a really good way to build out your process. Even if you're not going to automate any of it, start with that because it is a really good place to start and it'll make you really efficient. Any questions on that? All right. The last little thing I want to remind everybody of, because I'm getting a lot of questions about this as well, and I will flag one thing when I'm talking to you about this, is in your settings, the system can get you to be really efficient and you don't have to check on things. And this is around the updates and reminders. So updates and reminders will notify you about particular events in a deal, on a file, things that happen. And you have an option about how you want to be notified. So do you want to get text messages? Do you want to get emails? Do you want the little bell in-app reminder to tell you all of your tasks and all of your notes and all of your things? Or do you want a daily email summary? So with the daily email summary, we do recognize that that is coming at 10 o'clock right now. We prefer that it came at 8. We are looking to get that changed in a future release, so it comes earlier in the day. But then what I recommend is every user will be different. If you are an admin staff who is in front of your computer all day, you don't need to be notified by SMS and email when things are happening. That's just going to clutter up your inbox, right? You can get just in-app reminders. And if you are an only broker in your business, you don't need to be notified when a deal is created because you created it. We've had a number of people right now come in, like turn everything on, and then they're getting really frustrated because they're just getting bombarded with stuff. So think about what your role in your business is. What do you need the system to tell you is happening that you don't want to check? So you don't have to come and see if things have happened. Everybody will be different. There's a couple of things that I do want to make note of. I would always want to know when a task is assigned to me, even if I'm creating it, who cares? I don't mind knowing that. I don't need to know when I've completed a task because I'm the only one completing them. I want to know about things being due or overdue. Now, what I keep getting bombarded with, and I'm turning that one off, if I am the one who is actively working in my deal, I don't need it to tell me every time I create a note because I know I've done it. But I want to know when my client puts a note in the client portal. I want to know when my client puts a file in the client portal. I want to know when my client logs into the first time or when they update the fact find. One of the questions we've been asked a lot about as an enhancement is not just being advised when the client has updated the fact find, but can we be advised when the client has completed all the boxes in the fact find? We are working on that for an improvement in the future. I don't imagine that'll be before November or December, but we are looking at adding that functionality to the system for you. So Lucy, when you're talking about, Lucy said, can I ask about the deadline for transfer to Chief Point 2? That is something that we are actively working through with our aggregator partners, and they will communicate to you when we know when that deadline is going to be. You've got a little while longer. Hang on, my screen is just frozen. There we go. You do have a little bit longer, but it doesn't mean just ignore it. It won't be before anybody will be before the end of October, but doesn't mean you guys are going at the end of October. Let's be really clear about that. But we will be communicating with your partners, our partners, and they will communicate to you, SFG, my local broker, etc. Because I know I've got a few of you here from both today, and I appreciate that. Other questions for me from anybody? Anybody got any more questions? John, of course, I was hoping you'd have another one.
Sorry.
No, I can't. I
Um,
love it when you're here because you engage. I love that. Thank you.
Text file redaction. I've had examples where I've uploaded it and it's worked. I've had examples where it doesn't work. I thought I knew how it was working, so I pulled it out and put it back in. It doesn't work. Then you've got to go through and archive and delete, which drives me crazy. Is there an example? Do we know why or when it does work and when it doesn't work? Is it
Okay.
just a PDF or a PNG or what is
No.
it?
So what it is happening right now, and this, I don't know if this is fixed on Monday or the next deployment. So what's happening with TFN reductions right now is that when you use the TFN reduction tool, if you then download the document to view it, the TFN is gone. But if you preview the document, the TFN is still appearing. So we are working on a solution for that. So let me show you what I mean. I don't have
And now I have downloaded and it doesn't work. And I have downloaded and it does work.
okay. I will let me see. I know we're doing some work on that. So I'm not sure if that's in this one. I know that it doesn't work in the preview function, but leave that with me. I'll
I
see.
just thought you might say, John, if it's a PDF, it's working, and if it's a PNG, it's not, or something like that, which would then allow me to modify how I'm using it. But
So
then
how are you getting a PNG? So are you getting a client sending you a PNG?
they're normally PDFs, they're notice of
Yeah.
assessments, they're things like that. When they upload it into the system, as compared to when I upload it into the system, I think we're getting two different results there. When they're uploading it, I don't think it's working. Because I've got my own little cloud where I've got my own filing system. So in there under income, I'm gonna have a copy of the client's notice of assessments. Um, so I'm going in, I'm checking it, and no, it didn't redact it, even though the file has changed name to say it's redacted. So, it's not 100% at the moment. I didn't have
So
those guidelines
the
when
next
uploading.
time that happens for you, can you click on that live support, tell them the file name and everything, and they can go and look at it right when it happens for you?
Perfect, thank you.
That would be great, just so that we have the real specifics, so we can look at the name of the file and how it was changed or any of that, just to make sure.
Yep.
I
I've got
appreciate.
another question, which is other people, when we go and we set up our portal, and in our portal, we're getting, for example, fact find, and mine's got pre-populated a basic fact find or a full fact find. This is the questions that's being asked inside the portal itself, correct? So I've got control of those questions by selecting a fact find. Is that correct?
Yes, so what you would be doing is in your settings, your client portal settings here, you set up what's called flows down here on the bottom. And with your client portal flow, you can set up as many as you like. I've got lots.
Yep.
You can decide to what question, I'm going to call this John's flow for now. You can decide which of the questions you want to ask. You could ask everything. You could decide to not ask certain things.
So
You,
right now you're making a change for all of them combined, or this is for that one client?
no. You create flows
Yes.
like this. So I've got a particular flow. And then when you're in a deal and you want to send a client portal flow to a client, and I click on my client, you then decide which flow you want to send them. Which
And can
one
I
of
have
those-
stacks? Can
you
I
can
have
have
multiple?
stacks of them. So you wouldn't,
Okay.
yeah. So like one of the things I think is really interesting is to talk about the strategy around client portal flows. So some brokers are doing things like having really specific flows. So it might be a flow for PAYG first home buyer or PAYG refinance, a PAYG construction loan. They might do the same thing for like a sole trader purchase, a sole trader refinance, a sole trader what, and a trust in a company and whatever, so that you're asking really tweaked, very specific questions for very generic scenarios. Some people also are looking at the idea of having like a mini flow and a maxi flow. So they may send a mini flow in the beginning where they're just asking a few pieces of information to get a general gist of the client, have a bit of a conversation, work out, yeah, we're going to be able to keep going on this. And then setting up a second flow, which asks all the questions you didn't ask in the first one.
And are these flows exactly what we're looking at when I'm logged in and I'm doing a loan and I've got the home loan in the top left. I'm just going to bring it up. Let's
Yeah,
go
right
into.
here.
So
It's the same questions.
so that's exactly the same thing there. So I'm
Yeah.
changing the assets, liabilities, income, expenses, the structure of my portal when I'm doing it.
No. So
I've got access to everything, but the flow's only restricted and targeted to that user.
yeah, whatever you want them to tell you.
Okay.
I would not go in and create a custom flow for every client every time. I would have a strategy that when I'm coming here to my client portal share,
Mm.
I can pick from these flows which one is most appropriate for this client.
So where I was prior in their software, which was pretty good, which has got similarities to what we're using here, we would go through and we'd then choose their income type. So that was the stack. Then we'd go through to the purpose, which could be whatever it is, that was a stack. And then you had the ability to add investment properties and other things. So we created a stack which was relevant to that client.
So it does work a little differently here that you create a bunch of flows
Mm.
and then you select which flow is relevant for the client. You can't edit the flow in a deal. You can only edit your flows when you're
But I can grab a pay-as-you-go couple and then add that to a refinance, and then send that out, and there's the structure.
you need to create it all in here.
Correct.
You
So I
can't,
can have multiple versions in there. One could be
and then just pick out which one
pay-as-you-go.
you wanted. Yeah.
I noticed on one of my flows, I've got pay-as-you-go couple, pay-as-you-go single. Um, if I just go pay-as-you-go single and select two clients, is that the same, or is there actually a physical difference between them?
So when you send a flow to a client, you send each client a flow. You don't have to send them the same flow. You could send them different flows, or you could send them the same one.
Okay. And obviously they can go in and override each other's, if they're not realizing what they're doing, they actually go in and override each other's information. I've had that done as an error.
So what you can do here also is
That
say,
one there
if they
fixes that
see the
problem.
details, they're not
Yeah.
going to see anything, so they can't override it.
And that can be different for him and her. So she can override him, but he can't override her, or so on.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a really good article on setting up client portal flows. It doesn't talk about kind of strategy,
Yeah.
but I encourage you to kind of build out your strategy around the client portal because you can be really effective in how you use it.
All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions from anybody else as we're just about out of time today? Eric, is there anything you would like to add?
No, Heather. It's just a question from Lucy.
Oh, sorry. Let me see. Is it in the chat? I missed it. Sorry. Hang on, Lucy. Do you have the guideline for transferring to Chief 2.0? We have been working in Chief 1. Do you have a Chief 2.0 system clone or trial version? So Lucy, what you need to do is reach out to your team there, reach out to the team at my local broker, reach out to Santosh, reach out to Carolyn. They can provide you with all of the information. They've got the link, the instructions to log in. Eric's just put the email address in there for you. Reach out to them and they can assist you with getting onboarded and getting some help into the system. You guys absolutely have access to it now and you can do all the same things. 100%. Get in there and have a play, Lucy. Anything else from anybody else? All right. Everyone have an amazing Friday. Katrina, anything from you?
No. Sorry, I was just getting ready to say goodbye. Have a good weekend.
Everybody have an amazing weekend. Hopefully most people will get some sunshine and not too much wind, and we can all enjoy being outside. Wonderful to see you all. Thank you guys all so much for joining us today. And I'm sure I'll see most of you on something next week. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, Heather. Thanks, everyone. See you next one.